Is it worth upgrading from the iPhone 10 to the 10s or 10s Max? And what are the key differences? What's up guys, Saf here on SuperSaf TV, and that's what we're going to try to answer in this video. I think the first and most important thing to remember is that the iPhone 10s is only an incremental update to the iPhone 10, and that's indicated in the name. That's why it's not the iPhone 11, it is the S series. So especially when it comes to the size, look and design, things are pretty much the same. We've got the exact same dimensions on the iPhone 10s as the 10. Of course, the 10s Max is much bigger, being the Max device, and the Max is a similar size to something like the iPhone 7 Plus or iPhone 8 Plus, but of course with a much bigger display. The iPhone 10, 10s and Max all have a stainless steel frame with glass panels on the front and back, so they have an identical design, and realistically speaking, if you have the 10s in hand, you wouldn't be able to tell it apart from the 10 unless you went for the new gold color. We have silver and space gray for the 10, and the 10s and Max also have these colors, but they do have the new gold color. The glass, however, is stronger on the new iPhones. Apple have said that it's the most durable glass on any smartphone. They've not specified how or why this is, but they have said it is very durable. And the new iPhones also have IP68 Water Dust Resistance. The iPhone 10 has IP67. This basically means that you'll be able to submerge the new iPhones up to 2 meters into water for 30 minutes, whereas the iPhone 10, you can only do up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. Now, the displays of the 10 and 10s are also very similar, 5.8 inches. We've got small bezels with a notch, and they have OLED technology, Super Retina displays with a very high resolution, 458 ppi. The biggest difference on the newer iPhones is that they have 60% greater dynamic range compared to the iPhone 10. So especially when it comes to viewing HDR movies, you're going to be getting a better experience on the newer iPhones. The 10s Max, of course, has a massive 6.5-inch display. We also have more pixels on the 10s Max. However, the PPI pixel density is exactly the same as the other models. So overall, although you might not be able to notice a difference right away on the new iPhone displays, they are slightly better compared to last year. Now, you'll really be able to notice the differences when we look at the internals. And that firstly comes in the way of the processor. We have the Apple A12 Bionic Chip in the new iPhones versus the Apple A11 chip on the iPhone 10. Now, Apple is saying that we're going to have up to 15% faster performance, up to 50% faster graphics, as well as up to 50% lower power consumption, all thanks to the brand new A12 chip. Now, the Apple A11 chip is already very fast and really holds its own even this year against many of the competition. The A12 is just going to improve on that. However, we are going to be getting iOS 12 on both devices. This is something that Apple is really good at, updating your devices. However, iOS 12 is going to be running more smoothly. App launch times will be quicker, and gaming will be smoother on the newer iPhones compared to the iPhone 10. Now let's move on to the cameras. At first glance, looking at just the specs on paper, things might seem exactly the same. With the dual 12 megapixel cameras, both with optical image stabilization, the primary with an f1.8 aperture, and the secondary telephoto camera, which is going to give you 2x optical zoom with an f2.4 aperture. However, the new iPhones do have a larger sensor. This is going to mean better low light images, but that accompanied with the new ISP, image signal processor on the A12, is going to mean lots of improvements. We've got smart HDR, so we've got improved dynamic range on images on the new iPhones, and we've also got portrait mode, but with a twist. You are going to be able to edit the blur after the fact on the portrait mode shots on the new iPhones. This is something that you won't be able to do on the portrait mode of the iPhone 10. There's also an improved True Tone flash, and we've got further improvements when it comes to video. Although all devices can film at up to 4K 60 frames a second, with 1080p at up to 240 frames a second for slow motion, we now have stereo recording on the new iPhones. This is something that I've been banging on about for ages. We've got mono audio recording on the iPhone 10. So the stereo audio recording is going to sound much better on the new iPhones. We've also got extended dynamic range at up to 30 frames a second on the new iPhone, so you'll be getting better dynamic range for video as well on the new iPhones. Now, looking at the front-facing cameras, once again, initially looking at just the specs, it would seem that they are the same. We've got 7 megapixels with an f2.2 aperture, but you do have a faster sensor for the front-facing camera on the new iPhones, and we've got some of the features that we've got in the rear-facing camera, like Smart HDR, as well as the portrait mode with depth control. So although the iPhone 10 does have a portrait mode from the front-facing camera, which in my experience hasn't worked too great, this should now be improved on the new iPhones, and you'll also be able to play around with the blur after you've taken the picture. I'm really excited to test this out. And if you do want me to do a SuperSaf style camera comparison between the iPhone 10 and the iPhone XS or Max to really see how many differences we have, then definitely let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to do one as soon as we've got the retail versions of the XS and XS Max in hand. We've also got 1080p video at up to 60 frames a second from the front-facing camera of the new iPhones. The iPhone 10 has up to 30 frames a second. Now, Face ID has also been improved on the new iPhones. It should be faster and more secure. Apple is saying that it is the most secure facial recognition system out there right now. And although the iPhone 10 does have stereo speakers, which do sound pretty good, we've got wider stereo speakers on the new iPhones and they should be sounding better. However, we do not have a 3.5mm headphone jack on any of these. And what's interesting is that you are no longer gonna get a dongle out of the box for the new iPhones. This is the 3.5mm to Lightning dongle. So if you do have some 3.5mm headphones, you may need to buy an adapter if you don't already have one and you're going for the newer iPhones. The new iPhones also have dual SIM support. You can have one nano SIM with one eSIM. This is something that we don't have on the iPhone 10. It's just something introduced this year with Apple. This will be really useful if you're somebody who travels a lot and you want two numbers active at the same time. Maybe you have one number from work, one number for your personal. You can have them both active on the new iPhones. Now, moving on to the batteries, we're not sure of the exact size of the batteries of the new iPhones. Apple doesn't actually specify this. We're gonna have to wait till somebody actually pops them open physically to have a look inside. But Apple have said that you should get up to 30 minutes more usage on the iPhone XS compared to the iPhone 10. And when it comes to the XS Max, Apple have included the biggest battery on any iPhone before, and that should give you up to 1 hour and 30 minutes more compared to the iPhone 10. Now, what that usage exactly means is a bit of a question mark, and of course usage varies from person to person, but the newer iPhones should be giving you more battery life compared to the iPhone 10. Now let's look at the price. The iPhone XS is coming in at the same price that the iPhone 10 came in at last year, although you do have an additional storage version. You do have a 512GB version, which is of course coming in at a higher price. The iPhone XS Max comes in at $100 or £100 more for each model compared to the iPhone XS, and that is the price that you're going to be paying for that larger screen and that larger battery. So there we have it, guys. That is the comparison of the iPhone 10 versus the iPhone XS and XS Max. To answer the question earlier in this video, how many differences do we have? Well, between the iPhone 10 and XS, there are definitely improvements, particularly on the inside. But should you upgrade from the iPhone 10 to the XS? In my opinion, it's probably not worth the upgrade. The iPhone 10 is still a great all-round phone. It is going to be getting the latest software updates, and it should last you at least another year. And the iPhone 11 might be the better option for you to go for. However, if you do want a larger display, if you're somebody who likes a larger phone with a bigger battery, then going from the iPhone 10 to the iPhone XS Max might be a good option for you. And of course, if you're an enthusiast who just wants the latest stuff, then I'm sure you'll be going for one of the new iPhones anyway. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Definitely drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do hit that thumbs up button for me. And if you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe and switch on notifications. We'll have lots more iPhone content coming up in the coming weeks. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time.